speaker is awesome. Hey, everybody. Dr. Terry Wager here, Generator Consulting, and I'm here with my good friend, 5-Star Kevin. And what are we talking about today?
We're talking about when hiring people, hiring potential versus hiring need, and when to do each.
All right.
Stretch hiring potential over need.
There you go. Stretch hiring. Stretch hiring. Stretching. Is it necessary? So why are we talking about this? Why is this a topic that's super important for people?
Because it's one of those things that can be a little more higher risk than some folks would like to take. However, it could be necessary to level up your business.
Yeah. When I was working with a lawyer friend of mine, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, helping him grow his law practice. He wanted to grow, but he didn't have the money and he didn't know how to do both. And this topic came up very strongly because he's like, I can't pay them. And I was like, you're not supposed to pay them. They're supposed to pay their own way. And the idea is if you don't stretch in your hiring, you can't grow. And if you get overwhelmed too much in bringing on business that you need to hire somebody and you move into hiring for need, you don't have the ability to be as selective or intentional in what you're doing because you get reactive. And so we talked about the idea of really understanding what you're looking for to hire, and then really thinking about how hiring somebody is going to increase your capacity, increase your ability, and increase your overall ability to have the output. And so bringing somebody in that's a high potential investment for you, you may be having some kind of outlay issue, but what they're going to bring to you is much greater than what you're putting out.
Yeah, I think the key is you want to make sure you can survive long enough to get the ROI. But if it's the right person, I kind of like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no sort of mentality when it comes to this. It should be very easy, at least in our experience, to kind of assess the A players. Like if you're kind of on the fence with somebody, every time we've been on the fence with somebody, it hasn't worked out. Just to give perspective to anybody watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to add to what you're saying is like hiring is one of the most difficult things because most often when people are doing it, it's because they need people or they want to grow their income. So they go into this need, and need is a scarcity mindset. And when we have this scarcity mindset, what's really going on, it's not a mindset issue. You can't change your mind into a positive mindset, or you can't change your mind into a growth mindset. If you have a scarcity mindset, you have to identify your emotions and get back to a freaking balance so that you can actually think clearly about what you're really doing. And what people do is they go, well, if I hire a few people, then I can, or if I hire one person, then I'm good. And we're creating this idea inside of ourselves that when we get to this point, then we'll be okay, instead of being okay to get to that point. And it's really, for me, that's honestly a performance issue in ourselves in the area of hiring when we're hiring out of scarcity. And so I don't think we should ever hire out of scarcity. And when we're looking at the people as a hell yes versus a hell no, we're actually being much more intentional, and we're stepping back and going, it doesn't matter what we're doing right now. And it doesn't matter if we've got fires going on, because the fires aren't going to be put out by a hell no. It's going to actually add fuel to the fire if we bring in hell no's. So we have to be very, very conscientious, and intentional when we're bringing anybody into our organization, no matter what the situation is. And so I love that idea of hell yes versus hell no. The second thing I think about is, how do we get to hell yes? That's for you.
Yeah. You have to identify patterns of key players and knowing your culture. First, you got to know your culture. Two, you got to learn to identify the patterns that play out in your culture and what you're looking for, and identify them as clearly as possible. And then from there, it gives you a basis to judge folks on. Really, I mean, you're judging people when you're sitting down with them in an interview. You're judging whether or not they would be a good fit for your culture, and if you'll be a good fit for them to help them grow.
Well, wait a minute.
And-
What about this idea we shouldn't be judging people?
Good luck.
What do you mean, Kevin? Don't judge. We're not supposed to judge. What? And now you're saying actually we should judge. Well, which one is it?
I mean, to each their own. I think I tried that route of being very lenient, at least in the realm of business. I'm not speaking beyond that, but in the realm of business, I think it pays to be extremely judgmental.
I've
tried it the other way.
I'm teeing up the ball for you there, or teeing up the ball for me and seeing how well you swing at it. But I honestly believe 100% that judgment is a good thing. And by the way, I'm not just judging them, I'm judging me. And so setting up a rubric, so to speak, for what I'm looking for. And am I that person? Am I following what I'm looking for? Am I a good model of the thing that I'm bringing in? And if I'm not, then I need to do some work. The other piece is that if we're not judging, well, they got a record. Oh, we're not bringing them in. Oh, you just judged, right? They steal money. Oh, we don't want them then. Okay, so you're judging. Judgment is necessary, and if we don't have it, we make a lot of mistakes, and the reality is when people are talking about judgment, what we're really talking about is we can't condemn people. We don't want to condemn them. They're not bad people because we don't want them on our team. They just don't fit in our organization. And the problem that I see too much isn't that people are judging or not judging. It's that they're indiscriminately bringing things in out of fear. And so they have no filter of what they're really looking for. And so they have a bunch of people that don't work within their culture. And then they have all kinds of different agendas going on instead of bringing them in and understanding and saying, look, we do have a criteria and we're seeing if you fit in it or if you're going to elevate it or if you're not going to fit it. And we are 100% in favor of judging whether you're going to work for us or not. And we want you to judge whether you want to work for us or not. We want that discernment. We want that judgment. We want that decision situation because we don't want you if you don't want to be here. And we don't want to pay anybody who's not on board with what we're doing. And we can't afford to do that anyway. I did the math for fast food restaurants, what it costs for one employee to be hired, trained, and let go to hire in another one at $6,000 per person. $6,000 for one hire. That's not good. And that's through the course of the week of training and onboarding. And then once they start getting a paycheck, $6,000 to hire somebody. If you have two bad hires, you just lost $12,000 that month.
We had one that cost us $30,000, and we actually know it.
Right.
And job costing.
You got another one that costs you even more.
Technically, yeah.
And so when we look at the cost of hiring, it doesn't matter what job it is. There's a cost of losing a bad hire. And so we want to be very, very judgmental in what we're doing. And honestly, it's not a bad thing. Deciding whether they're a bad person or not because they won't work in our system is just ridiculous. And that's condemnation. We don't condemn anybody because they don't work in our system. They're just not going to work for us. They don't gel with our system. And there's plenty of people that don't gel with the way I talk about things, or and there's plenty of people that do. But if I'm sitting there bringing people in who aren't going to work with me in some way, that's just causing myself and them hell. And it's silly to do that. And so we want to be more intentional, and we definitely want to judge. The next thing is really looking at what are we going to lose by not hiring them? And this is a really big thing that I don't think people look at, especially when they're in that scarcity mindset. They're scared about what they're going to lose if they do hire, but they're not looking at what they're going to lose if they don't hire.
Right. The opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost. And what happens is they get so focused on the outlay and what it's going to cost them to hire somebody. They're not thinking about the fact that you got 2 more hands. And if you're hiring and you're hiring intentionally, then the potential of who you're bringing in is going to far outweigh the opportunity cost that you're going to lose if you don't hire them. And one of the questions that I always like to ask them is, okay, you have this person who's a potential prospect to work for you, and they look really good, and you know that they have good references, you know that they have good work ethic, you know that they have good, they're going to be a great hire if you bring them on, and you're not sure if you can pay for them if you don't, or if you bring them on, you're not sure that you're going to have the work or the money to pay them. Well, then think about, what if they work against you? What if your top competitor brings them on? Or they open a shop right across the street from you. And now that person that's going to build for you is building for themselves right across the street. You going to be happy with that? No. And so think about that they become your top competition if you don't bring them in and make them your top ally. And that's one of the things that I think about with that idea. And what we did with the lawyer that I was talking about when we had this situation was we really looked at, okay, what is it that they're going to be doing, and how much are they going to be able to contribute if they bring in their own work too? And so what we did is we really put together an ideal of who we want to bring in. And when we did that, part of what they were going to do is they were going to actually be able to bring money into the firm as they did the work. And within 6 months, he had 3 people working for him, and each person brought more money to the firm. And within 2 years, he had 27 people working under him. And we put together a very, very clear idea of skills assessment, an idea of culture assessment, and made sure that they had specific hoops that they had to jump through, not because we wanted to bother the hire. We weren't thinking about that. We were thinking about conserving the culture and conserving the direction of growth that we were looking at as we did it. And man, out of that 27 people that he brought on, he had 2 bad hires. And that's pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah. And it all came from really being intentional and thinking about what the potential is by bringing somebody in, rather than, oh, I need. And so when you're thinking about hiring, you got to really go, what's the opportunity cost? What's going to happen if you don't hire? Right? You actually are in this situation, and one of the reasons we came up with the topic is because we like to talk about what's going on with Kevin. And so you have a person that you're thinking about bringing on, and what would happen if you didn't bring them on?
I think there would just be, it would be a missed opportunity.
Absolutely. But are you guys hurting right now?
No.
No, you guys are having a great year. And so you guys are doing pretty good. Now, is everybody really just relaxed and have a whole lot of room in their schedule and their abilities, or are they running tight?
We're running pretty tight.
Running pretty tight. And that's one of the things that I really like about Kevin's business is they're really running pretty lean, and they're really intentional about what they can and can't do, but they're getting to capacity, and they're bringing on or they're talking to a guy that appears to have some really, really high skills. They know the guy's work, they know what he's done, they know what he can do,
Vinny
and the
worked
guy's
for them.
kinda interested, right?
Yeah,
So, what does that do to your capacity?
expands it.
How much?
Well, that's to be seen. I don't know.
Right, but if you were to guess,
I
seeing
mean,
that he's right along with where your other partners are as far as skills, abilities, and knowledge of the field, what does that do to capacity if you think about it?
I would say it at least doubles it, but it might be even more
Yeah,
because it's him coming on. He adds value himself, but the byproduct of him coming on and adding value is it gives time back to the other people in our company that also bring a lot of value. So it increases their value as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. So
right.
it could be
And
exponential.
the other thing that's really nice is it's someplace that he also fits the culture from what we've discussed, and he's going to be able to elevate all of how you talk about and think about these things. And if you don't bring him on, you stay where you're at, and you don't lose anything. This is not a need, and this is the great thing about when we're hiring for potential rather than need is there's going to be nothing lost if he doesn't come on.
Right.
But the capacity is going to open up so much that double or 2.5 times what you're able to do right now. And you have the work in the pipeline that you can cover that. And so there almost is a no lose situation to bringing this guy on. And it's almost like, and one of the things that I really like to talk about with people when we're looking at this, and when we at Generator are helping people think about how they're hiring and what they're doing. I'm working with another company in New York that we're starting to look at their sales process, and we're starting to look at their hiring process around that, and putting a commission structure in place. And the guy's like, I just want to get a commission structure so I can get somebody in here. And I'm like, you got to really understand your sales process before you actually have a commission structure, because if you just give a commission structure without what the process is, you don't know where the gateways are to pay them their commissions, and then they're either making money or they're not. You're either paying money or you're not, but you don't know if they're hitting the KPIs that they need or what the KPIs are. And so we need to back up and be much more intentional about what we're doing with this hiring process, and think about what the potential is by bringing the right people in, and then how to get them motivated to not just sit in there in a paycheck, but actually do the work that they're supposed to do, and give them incremental attaboys or attagirls or attabays for what they're doing to get to where they need to be, or to get to where they want to be financially. And so it's really stepping back and go, okay, instead of just hiring for need because we're in trouble, what do we want it to look like when we're done? And I always think about and try to get people to go, okay, we're putting a puzzle together. Do you have the picture of what the puzzle is going to look like so you can put the pieces where they go and kind of know? Or are you just kind of randomly doing it with a black puzzle and all the pieces look the same? Or a white puzzle and all the pieces look the same? Like, you have to have the understanding of what the picture is going to look like, and then put the pieces in place in order to get yourself there. And as we do that, we are really being much more intentional, and then hiring for potential. And then once we understand what the process is, how we're going to pay them, then we can find the right people in the right position in that process. And then, like, another example that I'll throw in there is when you were working as a realtor, one of the things that's really big is having transaction coordinator, right? Why would you have a transaction coordinator?
Because it gives you more time it gives you more time to make sales.
Right. And so it gives you more face time in front of people. Now, would you get a transaction coordinator that doesn't know how to do paperwork?
No.
No. Would you get a transaction coordinator that was a pain in the butt? Or had poor people skills? Right. And so, but a transaction coordinator that had those three things would make your life so much easier and faster that you could do twice as many, three times as many deals. And so thinking about that is like, oh, I can actually build my real estate business faster if I get a transaction coordinator or two. And then all I got to do is develop the beginning of the relationship, make sure I have it, find what they're looking for, and then have the transaction coordinator do all of the paperwork so I can do what I do best. And so thinking about that now, how do we put a sales process in place? Or that is a sales process, but how do we actually put a hiring process in place to find those people that can be the transaction coordinator? And then if we were actually to build a real estate business where I'm the principal and I have a bunch of agents underneath me, how do I find those agents that can develop the relationships and the transaction coordinators to fulfill? And so when we do that, what we're really looking at is putting a team together that really works on potential over need. The problem that I've always seen is people forget that potential is the most important thing.
People get comfortable.
They get comfortable, and then they forget that a business that gets comfortable is slowly dying because we're coasting, and you never coast uphill. But a business needs to go uphill and it needs to grow, and we need to put more in, because the business, any business, is just like a person. It thrives on growth. And so we need to think about, okay, the growth trajectory needs to be at a certain amount. It doesn't need to be way high, but it needs to be a certain amount steady. Otherwise, it starts to go down. And what's going on there is we're not actually paying attention. We're comfortable and we're relaxing, resting on our laurels. And as a result, we start to go downhill. The key is to really be intentional about where are we at with our income, where are we at with our hiring, and how close are they in movement. And when our and then when our potential is moving up for our growth, we want to actually go up with our hiring right above our growth. And so the stretch is in bringing somebody on when we don't really need them, but we're making good enough money and that person can add to it. And so if you're hiring, I think the best idea, well, what do you think, Kevin? You think you just wait?
No, I think waiting is, again, this is assuming this is like an A player must have kind of person. And that's
Absolutely.
rare to have somebody like this. I wouldn't, if you have to kind of really seek where the potential is with somebody, then it's not the right person, in my opinion. I think you should know it right off the bat. Like,
where's my hell yeah?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to rationalize why this person's
absolutely. And one of the things that I really like about you guys is you guys have been very, very clear since last year when you got rid of that last person, and we are not going to bring somebody on unless all three of us are 100% red hell yeah sign. We want this person in. And then you also, once you have that, you have everybody meet them and see what everybody else thinks too. And so I really like that. And the reality is, for any business, there should not be a person in that business that everybody isn't like, hell yeah. If we're not even just a little bit unsure, don't bring them in. But that doesn't mean don't go find that person. Don't go recruit that person. I'm a big fan of recruiting over hiring too, by the way. Recruiting is the best way to actually build a team. I've never seen somebody go and hire the best NBA players they recruit, or the best NFL players they recruit. They go and find what they're looking for and make deals for them, right? Why would we go and hope this person's going to work? We don't have a whole lot of references. Nobody that we know really knows them. So, well, let's see, give them a shot. It doesn't make sense. We want to recruit because that actually takes care of the goodness of fit and the culture fit. And when we know they're a hell yeah, we don't hesitate. Because, well, anybody hesitating, if they're starting to jump off a cliff, is going to get really hurt. You want to make the jump, and you want to make it wide and fast. The further out you go, the safer you're going to be.
And I think, again, this is just my opinion, you shouldn't have to sleep on it.
No.
Trust your gut. I mean, trust the information, but like you should be all systems go. If you have one light, one piece of you is just not completely on board for whatever reason, I would reconsider bringing that person on.
Absolutely. And that also goes back to emotional intelligence to a certain degree, and knowing what's going on with you. Because if you're not really clear with yourself and very comfortable with you and what you're doing, and you second guess yourself on everything, you can't tell if you're trusting your gut or you're listening to your ego. And so that's one of the things that I really, a friend of mine says the best leaders are self-aware leaders, right? It's not a leadership style. It's the level of self-awareness. Highly self-aware leaders are better than people who lack self-awareness, because the people who lack self-awareness react. The people that are highly self-aware are very intentional. And so if you're finding yourself hesitating or something, I would also look at what's going on with you, and do you need some executive coaching? Do you need some personal work? Do you need something going on? Because that hesitation isn't necessarily about what the other people are doing. It's about me making a good decision. But if you are clear on yourself and you know what's going on with you, and you know that this person has the potential and they fit your culture, it's a no-brainer every time. And so stretch hiring, it's a yes, it's a must, but it's got to be out of potential, not need. And you got to be clear with yourself, and you got to be clear and okay that you're making judgments. And when you do that, you can't lose. Any last thought?
I think that covers it. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome. I'm sure you could have said it different. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.